call Ajay for a second.
I'm here.
Oh, hi, Ajay.
Hello, Ajay.
So I hit recording, so we should be good.
You hit the recording?
No, after I think you were saying it looks like you were having some problems, so I just started from my side too. So you should be good.
So you will send it to me.
Yep.
Okay.
I'll give you files. You can upload it to YouTube.
Okay. Sounds good. Thank you. Good morning.
I'm gonna drop. I got another call, but you should be the host, so you should be all set.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. All righty. Good morning, everybody. It's lovely to see all of you. Thank you, Ajay, for recording this for me today.
Decide to disconnect from the meeting, and then it reconnected.
Oh, it did. Okay, good. Wonderful. So what I'm going to do is today we're going to talk about Van Gogh. Okay. So I'm going to mute you all so we don't have background noise. But then let me come back to you after a few slides to ask if you have any questions. Okay. Yes. Let's share the screen. Van Gogh, share. All right, so hi again. So today we're going to talk about Van Gogh, the genius of Van Gogh. He was a genius, okay? Just like all the other artists that we are studying. Van Gogh was a post-impressionist painter. So who started Impressionism? Does anybody know? Let me unmute you. Can anyone tell me who started Impressionism? Anybody? I'll give you a hint. Starts with an M.
Is it Monet?
Is it what? Somebody's talking. Is that Haley? Or just
Monet.
Monet, exactly. So Van Gogh came after Monet. So it's a post-impressionistic. He's a post-impressionist painter. Okay, so Monet was the one who started Impressionism. So Van Gogh came after that. What did he do? He used bold colors. His paintings were dramatic. His brush strokes were impressive. He would paint it with reckless abandon. I mean, he was very expressive in his paintings. He was born in 1853 in the Netherlands. And most of the time he spent was between Netherlands, London, and France. Okay. But the sad thing about Van Gogh is that he died really, really young, very young. He died at 37 years of age, and he took his own life, which is very sad. One of the things that happened to him was that he was depressed. He was very sad, and he had a mental health condition. And so he just shot himself, and that's what happened to Van Gogh. But the one thing that we know about Van Gogh is that he may not have been a very successful painter when he was alive. He only sold one painting, but he made about 2,100 pieces of artwork. 810 of them were oil paintings, okay? So, and he did a lot of different things. He did landscapes, he did selfies of himself, which I love to say that it's the selfies instead of portraits. You know, those days they never, they just drew themselves, and he made like 36 or so portraits of himself. And then he did still lifes, like how we did a still life the other day, and so forth, okay? And his paintings were characterized with bold brush strokes that I already just told you. And his paintings made the foundations for modern art, what we call as modern art nowadays, okay? So what about his education? Well, he was generally self-taught, okay? He taught himself how to do painting. He didn't do painting or sculpting or things like that, like Picasso at a very young age of, say, 7 years old, or he didn't start sculpting or something like Michelangelo did when he was 7 years old, okay? he started painting at the age of 28. And they say that most of his paintings, like almost all of his paintings, came in the last 2 years of his life. So he was about 28 when he started painting. He was a self-taught painter. He was homeschooled by his mom and his governess. Okay, he did go to boarding school in 1864. He went to middle school in 1866. And then he just went to these art dealers by the name of Gopil and C. And then from there, he was transferred to London. And in London, he became a little depressed. He was not very happy in London. And then he moved from there to Paris because, you know, from his job in London, he was then moved to Paris to take care of this art dealership or, you know, gallery that they had. And then he came to Amsterdam. Then he became a missionary because his father was a missionary. You know what a missionary is? Missionary is a person who takes care of the church, the work of the church. Okay, so that's a missionary, and he was a missionary in Belgium. And then he studied in 1880 with a Dutch artist by the name of Roelofs. Okay, he tried to attend the Academy of the Beaux Arts and then he went to Paris. Then he went to Arles and then Saint Remy. But then he passed away in like when he was 37 years old. So let's look at some of his paintings, okay? So if you look at this painting, it's called Almond Blossoms. It was done in 1890. Let's look at it again. He died at the age of 37 in 1890. He did Apple Blossoms in 1890. Okay. And then what does it look like? It looks like a Japanese painting, right? It looks very Japanese. So when he came down for his treatment, remember I told you like during the last 2 years of his life is when he made most of the paintings. When he came, he moved, oh goodness. Okay, so he moved when in the springtime. And in the springtime, all these beautiful flowers were in bloom. So he painted a ton of flowers when he came to Arles, okay? So very quickly he painted like a lot of the spring blossoms in a span of a month, actually. So this is one of them, the almond blossoms. Let's look at another painting. This is a very famous painting of his. It's called Wheat Fields with Cypresses. So these all trees that you see are cypresses. So one of the things that you notice right away, if you're on your computer later on, I want you to go ahead and expand these paintings. Like go look up Wheat Fields with Cypresses and look at certain areas, like say the wheat fields, like the yellow part or the green part where the cypress trees are, or the grassy part or the clouds, and expand it, and you will see his brush strokes. You can see it even now, like, you know, so there's like movement with his brush. So he just took paint and he just put it on. It's very, very expressive. And then he put it on very thickly. So when you put on paint very thickly, what is it called? It's called impasto. Remember, I told you impasto is just a term which is used when paint is applied thickly, right? So that's impasto technique. Okay, so the nice thing about this painting, I mean, even though he didn't sell it when he was alive, the Met bought it from somebody at $57 million. So after his death, posthumously, Van Gogh was really, really famous and revered as an artist, okay? Very successful, but only after he died. Here's another painting. In this painting, he painted his own bedroom in Arles, okay, in 1888. And this painting, you can see it in the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam. So why did he paint his bedroom? He painted his bedroom because he was sick. He was trying to recover and he couldn't go out. So what did he do? He just painted his bedroom. He just stayed inside and he painted the whole bedroom. So I want to read you one of his letters. One thing about Van Gogh is that we know a lot about his life through his letters. He was very close to his brother. His brother's name was Theo. Theo was younger than Van Gogh. Van Gogh was the older surviving sibling in that family. He had another sister and another brother, but he was very close to Theo. Okay, so he would write a lot of letters to Theo. Except when Theo came to stay with Van Gogh in Paris, that time they don't have any letters because they are there to communicate with each other. But when Theo was not with him, he would write letters, and there were many letters, and we know a lot about Van Gogh's life through his letters. So I want to read you a part of what he wrote, okay? This time he's describing this particular painting. This time it simply reproduces my bedroom, but color must be abundant in this part. Its simplification, adding a rank of grandeur to the style applied to the sub-objects, getting to suggest a certain rest or dream. Well, I have thought that on watching the composition, we stop thinking and imagining. I have painted the walls pale violet, the ground with checkered material, the wooden bed and chairs yellow like fresh butter, the sheet, pillow and pillows lemon light green, and the bedspread scarlet colored. The window is green, the wash basin orangey, the tank blue, the doors lilac, and that is all. There is not anything else in this room with closed shutters. The square pieces of furniture must express unswerving rest. Also, the portraits on the wall, the mirror, the bottle, and some costumes. The white color has not been applied to the picture, so its frame will be white, aimed to get me even with the compulsory rest recommended for me. I have depicted no type or shade or shadow. I have only applied simple, plain colors like those in crepes. So whenever he wrote, he described his paintings with food. And this is one of the excerpts. I mean, I just love the way he expressed his paintings and his life. And he compared a lot of the things to food. It's like fresh butter and like, you know, like crepes. It's always food. There's always like a comparison, which is to me very nice. It gives us a window into his life to read his letters. Someday I'm going to read all his letters. Must, you know, it has been published. Now look at this painting. What do you think? Let me unmute you and tell me what you see in this painting. A lot of, it's a C word, color, right? A lot of color. Okay, I'm going to mute you again. So this next painting, the reason why I asked you to tell me about, you know, what do you think of this painting is the next painting. Look at this painting. He made this painting in 1885. So different. It's called The Potato Eaters. And what was he drawing? He was drawing peasants or farmers, okay? And he didn't want them to look really fancy and beautiful. They look rather like peasants, you know? And so this painting is very different from this one, or even this one. There's a lot of color in these two paintings, but this painting, The Potato Eaters, is rather dark, you know? One of the curious things about this painting is that it was stolen in 1991. The thieves were running away with this. They were in their car, but guess what happened? The car tires got punctured. And so the thieves just left the car. They just abandoned the car and ran away. So finally, when the car was, checked, they found all these paintings and they were returned back. So Van Gogh, this was a curious thing about this painting, but I love how he's done this painting. It's a classic of his. This is a portrait with a self-portrait with bandaged ear. And it can be seen in the gallery in London, and it was done in 1889. Now, why was his ear bandaged? Remember I told you he suffered from depression. And he was he was sick. He was fighting with, I think, Paul Gauguin, one of his friends. And then he just cut his ear off. He just cut his ear off. And then when he was admitted to the hospital, he didn't remember what happened. So he was really suffering from mental health problems, some mental health issues. But then when he came home, he painted this self-portrait of his with the bandaged ear. And this is if you look at it again very clearly, very closely, you'll find that there are amazing brush strokes. You look at how he's depicting the fur on his hat, and then his coat, and then he's painting the background, of his house. And there's a painting there. There's the shuttered windows and so forth. So that's the story about this painting. Now, here is a painting. It's called Cafe Terrace at Night. It was done in 1888. It's in the Kroller Museum in Netherlands. This painting he never signed, okay? He didn't sign this painting. But he painted the cafe scene, say, around nighttime. Whenever he painted these nighttime scenes, look at how dramatic it is. It is very dark blue. He didn't paint a dark sky. He didn't paint it black. He painted it very dark blue. That was very notable. And then he made all these beautiful twinkling stars, and he overemphasized them. And then he, again, so this is very characteristic of Van Gogh. And look at the colors he's used and the pavement. And he's depicted the light from the cafe, even lighting up the street. So this is Cafe Terrace at Night. Let me tell you a little bit more about this. I want to read again. I was interrupted precisely by the work that a new painting of the outside of a cafe in the evening has been given me these past few days. On the terrace, there are little figures of people drinking. Okay, so there are a figure of people. A huge yellow lantern lights the terrace, the facade, and the pavement. This is his letter to Theo. And the reason why I want to read it out to you is because look at how beautifully he's explaining his painting. So the little yellow lantern is lighting up the terrace and the facade and the pavement. It even projects light over the cobblestones of the street. So these are the cobblestones of the street, which takes on a violet pink tinge. See, the violet pink tinge. The gables of the houses on the street that leads away under the blue sky, he's describing the blue sky, studded with stars. So he's showing all these stars, and a dark blue or violet with a green tree. Here's a green tree. This is so beautiful, the way he just expresses how he's expressing this painting to his brother Theo. And so then if I were Theo and I was reading a letter, I could actually visualize this painting. You see, that's how well he explains it. In the past, they used to draw and paint a picture from the drawing in the daytime. But I find that it suits me to paint the thing straight away, sort of like a plein air. It's quite true that I may take a blue for a green in the dark, a blue lilac for a pink lilac, since you can't make out the nature of the tone clearly. But it's the only way of getting away from conventional black night with a poor, pallid, and whitish light, while in fact, a mere candle by itself gives us the richest yellows and oranges. So beautiful. I love the way he's written it. So he said, why must we, paint the dark sky like black and like gloomy and stuff? Whereas like even the light from a candlestick gives out this beautiful yellow and orange glow. So that's Van Gogh for you. I can't say it any better. So that's why I wanted to read out what he wrote in those letters. This one is the portrait of Dr. Gachet. It was done in 1890. And it's in a private collection. Dr. Gachet took care of him in the last few months of his life. He was a homeopathic doctor. See, this is a foxglove. Foxgloves are shade-loving plants, and they are medicinal in property. They are poisonous sometimes. And then he has two of his books, and he's just doing this, and he posed like that. He has a very solemn look on his face, and he painted Dr. Gachet. The story goes that when Theo was trying to find a place for Vincent van Gogh to come back when he was released from the hospital, he couldn't find any, he found that like one painter told Theo that, ask Dr. Gachet, he might be able to take care of Vincent van Gogh because he might, rent his house to Vincent. And at first, when Vincent met Dr. Gachet, he didn't like him. He said, I don't think I'll like him, But 2 days later, he says, he wrote a letter to his sister, Will, and he said that, oh, I have found a true friend. So he liked him right away. Like within 2 days, he changed his opinion. So that's why one of the things that we always want to realize is that when you meet somebody new, you don't want to make like an impression of them before even getting to know them. So that way, Vincent van Gogh, within a couple of days, he realized that Dr. Gachet was almost like a brother to him, and he's such a nice person. So this painting is very, very sweet. I like that painting. There's another painting. He drew up irises. These are irises, and you can see this in the Paul Getty Museum in Los Angeles. In 1987, it sold for $53.9 million, almost 54 million. That was a very expensive painting, right? Here's another one, and he drew sunflowers. He drew a few of the sunflowers, like, maybe 8 or 16 paintings of sunflowers. So these are Van Gogh's sunflowers. One of the most famous paintings is the Starry Night. People say that it is so famous that it is more famous than Van Gogh himself. So what do you see in this painting? I want to unmute all of you, and then you tell me what you see in this painting, okay? Take it away. What do you see in this painting?
Emphasis on the stars.
Say that again, one more time.
I see a town.
You see a town.
Emphasis
Yes,
on the
thank you.
stars.
And it is, you see the stars, yes. Very nice. But look at it, okay? Look at it.
Looks like whirlwind, his mind was whirlwinding.
It looks
stable
very,
mind.
yes, it looks very windy, yes. but look at the animation in the sky. So you would think that, you know, Van Gogh was known to paint what he saw. Whatever he saw, he painted. He would just go out and he would paint. But this particular picture, he painted from his imagination. So see, the sky is like really animated. And do you see stars? When you look at the night sky, do you see stars like this? Do you see yellow stars with like a lot of animation around it? But that's how Vincent saw it. Like, you know, and he exaggerated what he saw. And then he put like look at the church steeple. This is not a scene that he painted. He just put all these things together. So what he was trying to, you know, people have interpreted the painting in different ways. So he put his favorite cypress trees in the picture. He put his church in the picture. And there's this little town, and you know, there are little houses there with little yellow light coming out of the houses and all of that. So what he did is he over exaggerated the sky or the heavens, and he brought the heavens down to this little town. And he is showing that the church is reaching up from the people to the heavens. See the steeple? Like that. It's his imagination. It's not how it looked. He just drew it from his imagination. And this is a very highly imaginative painting that's extremely famous. You should, I would advise you to go and read up a little bit more about the Starry Night. It appears everywhere. It appears on t-shirts, on mugs.
I'm pretty sure my aunt used to have like a printed out version of this painting.
Yeah, lots of
I
printed.
know for sure I've seen it before, like a printed out version of it.
Yes.
It was either in one of my classrooms in like
Yeah.
5th grade, or my aunt used to have a printed out version of it.
Very famous
I
painting.
know my aunt used to have a printed out version of one of the paintings by Van Gogh.
Good.
I don't know for sure which one.
Okay, good, Jared. That's very good. Thank you for sharing. I'm going to mute you all for just a little bit. Okay, and let's look at the next painting. Another selfie of his. It's a self-portrait with a straw hat. It was done in 1887. Van Gogh. You can see it in the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam. Pretty cool, right? How he did it. But if you look at the old masters' paintings versus Van Gogh's painting, look at all the brush strokes. I mean, it's just so many like serious brush strokes. And the reason why today I'm going to teach you how to use the palette knife, even though Van Gogh used brushes, I just want you to show how to use a palette knife and how to create impasto technique using a palette knife. We're not going to use a brush today, but we're going to use a palette knife. But you can create the same painting with a brush and apply thick color with brushes, okay? Just like Van Gogh did. Here's another painting. It's a siesta. Siesta meaning like people are sleeping, right? Look at them. They were tired of the work and they're just taking a little bit of rest under the haystack. That's the siesta. You can see it in Paris. Now this painting is called The Roses. He painted a lot of flowers, and roses can be seen in the National Museum of Western Art in Tokyo in Japan. Okay, now this one is called the Yellow House. This is the house that Van Gogh actually rented. And see these little rooms right here? He rented 4 rooms, okay? And these rooms with the green and the shutters are open, these were Van Gogh's little rooms. So the house doesn't look anything like this today. It looks different, but it is, they have reconstructed the house because during the war, the house was damaged. And so now they have reconstructed the house. It's still called the Yellow House, you know, The streets have changed, but the yellow house still remains as a mark of respect. Now, he also painted this particular church. This church still exists. I saw a picture of it on the internet. You should go and look it up. But look over here, the church, look at the roofs of the church. They're sort of curved. They're not curved really, but look at the use of color. Again, he's painting the night sky a deep blue. That's just gorgeous. And the pathways, look at his amazing brush strokes. And the hedges around the church and the flowers. So the brush strokes are pretty significant in this. Here's another selfie or a self-portrait of him at the Musée d'Orsay in Paris. And this one, this one is Wheat Fields with Crows. And this was, people say that this was his last painting, although there is some debate around which one was his very last painting. You know, when I saw this painting, I thought that it's sort of like there is a superstition about crows and death. And he painted this just before his death. And somehow I just saw this painting and I was reminded that there is the superstition that if some crows, if you see crows or they portray crows, it's associated with death. But soon after he passed away. Whether this is his final painting, we don't know, okay? So let's look at the quotes of Vincent van Gogh. He said, I dream my painting and I paint my dream. And then he also said, be clearly aware of the stars and infinity on high. Then life seems almost enchanted after all. So this life that you and I have been given is just a fantastic time. When you come to my age, you will realize that life is so short because, you know, when you're constantly doing stuff, life passes by very quickly. And as you get older, when you're younger, you think, oh my God, when is Christmas coming? When is it going to be Halloween? Or when is it going to be 4th of July in January? You'll start thinking about it. When am I going to have my holidays? But then when you're my age, you'll think, oh my God, is it Christmas already? Time flies when you're having fun, when you're creating. And then he also said, it is good to love many things, for therein lies the true strength. And whosoever loves much, performs much, and can accomplish much, and what is done with love is well done. Isn't that a profound statement? I just love the way he writes and the way he thinks. And then he also said, there is nothing more truly artistic than to love people. Okay? And then one of his another thing that he said was, normality is a paved road. It's comfortable to walk, but no flowers grow on it. So don't lead a normal life. Just lead a life that is people will talk about. Like do something creative or something that even when you're gone from this world, that people will talk about it. So live your life purposefully. This is what it tells me. Another one of his very profound statements is, painters understand nature and love it and teach us, like the normal people, to see it. Okay, you understand? Painters understand nature and love it and teach us to see it through their paintings. That's why we must you know, encourage artists and love you know, different types of art and so forth. And that's what I'm hoping to get by teaching these classes to young people like you, and hopefully your parents are sometimes listening in. They will get this, and you will, when you grow up, you will go out there and understand and appreciate art for what it is. Okay? today we're going to paint the sunflowers, okay? But instead of using a brush, we're going to use a palette knife, okay? You can also paint a self-portrait like Van Gogh. Yes, that's a palette knife, Will. Very nice, good. Write a letter describing your feelings and explain the expression in your self-portrait. This is like a homework. If you want to do it, that would be great. Make a self-portrait and then explain in a letter your painting so that the person who is reading your letter can understand, actually visualize the painting. Remember, I read you a couple of his letters describing his painting. So this is just an exercise for you. Here's another one. I just wanted you to know that he only sold one painting during his lifetime. He made 36 self-portraits, and Van Gogh's paintings are amongst the most expensive paintings in the world. And Van Gogh Museum is the second most popular museum in the Netherlands. And I wanted to tell you about why did I choose this particular painting as a background for Van Gogh. It's called There is a Valley. You can see it over here if you like. Let me show you the painting a little bit more close up. What do you see? I've used brushes and palette knives, and there's the strokes, very bold strokes, okay? So that is our lesson for today. And let's try to create this little still life, okay? Are you ready, guys? Let's unmute all of you. Okay, so let's bring out a palette knife. What's a palette knife? So these three palette knives you've got in your kit, right? Let's open this up and let's bring it out. So there you are. We have three palette knives, two metallic and one plastic, right? This is plastic and two metallic palette knives. So even though Van Gogh used amazing brush strokes, I just wanted you to know that he used impasto style, meaning he painted with a lot of paint. So that's what we're going to try and do. So remember, one of the things that I told you is change the background. Change the background, okay? So you don't have to paint the little windows that you see, my patio that you see in the back. You don't need to paint all that. Let's start by painting the background and the foreground a little, okay? And then we'll draw the little clear vase and the sunflowers. So let's take one of your palette knives. Let's take this one right here, okay? Let's go to town. So I'm going to use this little blue color. So I'm going to take a little bit of blue, a little bit of green, and I'm going to put it on my palette. And I'm going to add a little bit of white.
Are you using a canvas or the sketchbook?
I am using the stretched canvas. The canvas is on board. So here I made so I added a little bit of blue, a little bit of green. I'm going to paint this surface. Let me bring it closer. Sort of like that. I'm just going to put in some So there is a little bit of a curve because it's on a round table, right? So I'm going to take my palette knife, load it with some paint, and then I'm just going to stick it right here up on top and then trace a little round, okay? And you can use both sides. Again, I apply the paint quickly, and I'm just going to use like that. In contrast, you can also put a little bit of the white paint directly on the canvas. Okay? I'm going to put a little bit of white paint directly on the canvas. See, I put some white paint there. And don't be afraid. It's only paint. So you just take it and spread it. Spread it.
Is this watercolor?
No, this is acrylic from the tube.
Oh,
See, you just spread it. So look at how much surface we've already covered. Okay, then add a little bit of character to it. So right here, I'm going to add a little, right from the tube, see? I'm going to put a little bit of blue there. Okay, cover that. And I'm going to take my palette knife again, and I'm just going to spread it. There. So see, it's like, this is the round table. So there you go. Leave some thick marks, it's fine. Leave thick marks. And then I'm going to set it up here for a second. And I'm going to take some more white, because see, on the painting on this side, there is a light, a reflection of light. So I'm just painting directly with the tube onto the canvas right here. I put some white on the canvas, and I'm going to take my palette knife and there it is, and just draw it. So there's a little bit of light there. So you have that, it's done. There you go, that's done. Now let's put in some yellow for the sun. Before we put some yellow for the sunflowers, we kind of want to mark the area. So if you put a vase right here, so for instance, let me turn this light. Can you see it better now? So you can imagine the vase is about, if you look at the picture, it's just a little bit lower than half of the canvas, right? Right here. So I'm going to just lightly mark it, just lightly with my palette knife. I'm just going to.
Hyacinth, we don't have that brush which you are having.
This is a palette knife. You have it. It's in your brown box kit. Like, you know, it came in the brown box kit. It's a palette knife. See this?
this one. No, we don't.
We
No,
don't have.
You
We
have
don't
it.
have.
It came in. Oh, you don't have it. Okay, then use this palette knife.
We have this one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
use this one. Use the white one, the purple. This should work too. So I'm just going to make a little, like with the palette knife. Okay, let me use this one right now, since everybody has. The reason why I'm not using the white one is you won't be able to see it right here. But use your palette knife and make like a mark with this. So I'm going to use this and make like a little mark. So here's your flower vase, maybe a little bit higher. So you have a little idea of, okay, this is the vase. And then your flowers will be over here, maybe over here, and just draw the outline. There's here and here. Okay, and the rest of the portion, just wipe it off. See, you have this, see how I'm wiping off my palette brush with it? Whatever paint I have. And then I'm going to make the background a little bit with yellow paint. Not yellow, sorry, brown. Let's make it a little bit with some brown. Just put some brown paint. Okay, and then I'm going to add what I did was I just dabbed on some brown, and then I'm going to add a little bit of black. See this black? Some black. I'm just making it up as we go. Okay, and then add a little bit of white. There we go. Okay, and then take your palette knife and we are just going to spread it. Like that. Can you see it? Just going to spread it. We're making the background. And don't be afraid to go right above the glass. Just leave a little bit of space where the yellow of the sunflowers are. Okay, so there's your background. Okay, you can even turn the painting upside down. So do it like this. Turn it upside down. And you take your palette knife again and you go around the little round table like that. Okay? And don't be afraid, that's where the vase is, that's fine, because you're going to, because the vase is clear. Remember, the vase is clear. So you're not going to, you're going to see the background. And so there you go. So you have some type of a background. Okay, done. Okay, bring it back up. Same thing, do that, do that. And now let's start building the sunflowers. Okay. Let me grab a paper towel and wipe it off. See, the paint is wiped off. Beautiful. Now, what do we see? We see some really darkish brown centers, right, on the sunflowers. So I'm going to make, before I do that, I'm going to make a, yeah, let me do the sunflowers darkish brown thing, areas for the sunflower. So I'm going to draw one right here. I'll put a sunflower here. I'll put a sunflower here. Another one right smack in the center. Another one just above it. And another one just below it. So these are the spots for my sunflowers. Okay. Now that I have that, I don't want it to be black, so I'll put a little bit of yellow, dark brown, something like that. I'll dot it just for fun. Okay, and I'll cover this. And then I'll take the brightest yellow. See this bright yellow? Because I want the brightest yellows. And then I'm going to put the yellow around the flower. One flower, another flower, and another flower. Okay? Now I really made my painting a little, my tube is a little dirty. See, look. I'm going to clean that up with my palette knife. And then I will just put the yellow around the black. Okay, just put it around the black. Okay, so now I'm going to close that, put it away. Now here's a fun trick, okay? You take this palette knife and you make like little, so take the pointy side and put down leaves. But for that, I need some more yellow paint. So I'm going to take a little flat surface. Maybe I'm going to use this. I'm going to put some paint. I just used a flat surface. I'm going to take that, dip it in my palette knife, and then just make the sunflower. Okay, let's do the same thing again. Just give it a little flower type shape. Don't be afraid. It looks like a mess, yes, but it will look very pretty soon. Okay, so you just do that. Okay, and now you have some sunflowers there. Now you want some greens, right? So what I would do, remember I told you that you can mix colors. So you add a little bit of blue to the yellow, add a little bit of blue and the yellow, mix it up. And guess what? It becomes green. Look at that beautiful green, right?
No. Wow.
And then you just put in a little green right there.
No way.
And then put the greens in between. Yep, that's it. Okay. That's it, okay? Now you are going to make this green a little bit darker because now I'm going to build the vase. So I'm going to add a little bit of black.
I was gonna answer, you're gonna add more blue.
So the one thing that I do with my paints, I never like to waste paints. I use up everything. You can mix a ton of colors, and so there you go. You made it a little, added a little black. You can even add a little bit more blue, and it becomes a darker color. So you use that, and then you make the vase. So you just paint it in, paint the vase in. So you see, the background will be there, okay? And then, because it's transparent, you can just put in some colors. So it appears like seeing the background in the back, okay? So here I have left some white, so I need to cover that up. So I'll take this paintbrush and I'll just cover it up. Not paintbrush, palette knife. Okay, so that's it. Okay, so what I'm trying to show you is that you can use your palette knife and look at how fast you've created something, right? So here,
Pretty.
say that again. I'm going to use a brush now. See this brush? And I'm just going to fill in the gaps. So I don't see all this canvas board in the background. So I'll just fill it in like that. Okay.
I don't know what I created.
Let me see. Who is that? Who did? Oh,
Me.
really? There you are. Okay. That's all right. That's good. Now what you can do is you can put the sunflowers in. Even though you have paint all over, you can just put the sunflowers in, okay? Sometimes you'll have to just wait for it to dry. I may even use a thicker paintbrush so that it will go faster. So just do that. Expressive brush strokes. He was very, very, he would just paint it. He didn't worry about how it looked. He just made the background, just made the flowers, and it all came together beautifully. You're just building on the painting. Don't be afraid, like if you've drawn the flower vase, don't be afraid to go over it. Because you can always draw the flower vase back with your darker color, because you're just creating an illusion. So if you look at the flower vase, it's transparent. How do you create that? You put in your demarcations and then add some color, like lighter color, and then you get that vase feeling. The background is
Miss, class is almost over.
what? Say that again.
Class is almost over.
It's almost over. That's okay. We have 3 minutes. We should be able to finish this. So let's see. Let's finish this. Okay. All right. Now, let's take this palette knife again and introduce the vase. Here we go. 1, 2. There's your vase. And it has a little base, so just put it in. There's your vase. And then put a little bit of like back like that, okay? Maybe a little bit of reflection down here. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take white, the color white, and I'm going to add the color white. Same thing, I'm going to take a paper towel, wipe the black off, okay? And then dip it into my white color. Here's my white color. And then I'm going to introduce some light in here. And then it shows that there are some whites like that. It's going horizontal. Oh, I can see the top of the flower vase. So I'm going to give you an impression of the flower vase just by making a round like so. Like so. That's it. And then I'll add it like that. There's just a reflection. Okay. Yeah, it looks like a flower. Okay. Looks like there's something going on over there. And then I'll put some horizontal reflections because it's a crystal vase. You can always add or take off color. And there's a lot of sun rays coming right here because it's really bright. So I'm going to put in a little bit of extra white there and there, and maybe right here. So it looks like a vase to me. And I would just finish that like that, okay? And then later on, take another paper towel, wipe that off. And what you can do is, you can make the color light. See how if you look at the photograph, there's some light yellows and dark yellows. So how do you make that? You put a white, a little bit of white, put a little bit of the yellow, make it lighter yellow. If you put a lot of white, it becomes a little bit lighter yellow. So take the lighter yellow and put in flower petals in between. I can see there's flower petals here that looks a little bit here, 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 here. So you just add with the palette knife, okay? And then you could take your brush and make it. I'll get another brush because this is dark. Let's see. Let's try this brush. And then put in like the highlights of white. Put in highlights of white. Okay. And the reason why we're doing it this way is because I want you to create an impasto technique in the sense that I want you to layer on paint that is very thick. And this is an impression of a sunflower. And then you can just develop it further. And there you have a vase of sunflowers. Don't forget to wash your brushes off really well, okay? Unmute all. Any questions, everybody? Let me find a water thing to clean up my brushes because I don't want any of my brushes to go bad. So I'm going to put it all in water so that I can clean them up. Give me 1 second.
2 brushes.
Not that like good.
So it's very, very important for you guys to remember that, you know, as soon as you're done painting with your wonderful brushes, you need to wash them off. Wash them, put it in water. If you don't have time to wash them right away, just put it in water because acrylic is can be dissolved in water, and that way your brushes won't, the paint won't dry on the brushes. Okay, and that way you can save those.
No, I know you're.
What do you call it? Those brushes of yours. All right. Any questions? Anybody?
No.
No. Well, thank you very much for coming on and being a part of my lesson.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Hyacinth.
Try to do this. What I did, I mean, you saw what I did. It does looks like there's a vase on a table. I obliterated the background. I didn't make it all, like how Vincent Van Gogh did. He put a lot of complicated stuff in the background. For instance, in in this portrait, he didn't put complicated stuff in the background. However, if you look at this portrait of Gachet again, he put something in the background that's not complicated. But over here, if you look at it, this is a complicated background, right? There is a painting behind him. There's a window shutter. There's the green of the walls. This is perhaps the coat hook that he hangs his coats on, which is probably behind his bedpost or something. So this is a complicated background. You can do it, but you can choose also to not make it complicated and do something like this. So he's put this background with different colors and added on more other colors, okay? So then the focus then goes right on his face. And remember, again, his face has intense brush strokes. Okay? That's how you develop it.
So, Hyacinth, how to make the flower vase crystal?
So the flower vase, so what you do is you paint the whole background, right? It was on a table. If you look at this, picture that I sent you,
Yeah.
see this table? It's a round table. Over here on this part, there's light. So I painted this whole thing, and I painted the whole background. And for the flower vase, I just took like a darker color and put the impression with the palette knife that there is a vase there. And I put some green for the sticks in it. But then how do I say that there is a flower vase there? Because the light is reflecting on it. So I put some whites.
Okay.
I put some whites in between. Like if you look at the figure that I sent you, there will be some whites. And that white is because the light is reflecting off of this clear glass. Okay? And then just put blobs of color and then give an impression of flowers. Okay? And you can make the background as complicated as you want or not. Okay? So I will maybe work a little bit more on this painting just to give it a little bit like the background to be a little bit more sort of like maybe like this or even not that. Let's see. I think maybe like this one. See, there's some character that's going on in the background. So I might add a little bit more color after the painting is dry to develop a lot more impasto technique. There's a lot more paint on it. So I'm going to let this dry. So it develops like little bumps on the painting. It's not flat. It's not totally flat. And then I'll add more paint on it. You know, get that nice thick feeling of paint on there. So if it were an oil painting, this would have to dry for over 6 months if I put paint on so thickly. Oil paints, you put on paint thin, and so it's always thick over thin. So you build up your lower layers thin, very thin, and then you put thick layers on top, okay? Because it takes, if you did the opposite way, say you put lots of thick layers and you try to put a thin layer on it, the thick layer will take time to dry. And so what will happen is eventually it'll crack. That's not a good idea, okay? So I will wait for it to dry and then I'll develop this painting more. So it may not come to you like in today's email, but tomorrow will be our 10. Wait, this is PowerPoint. What is this number? 8. Tomorrow is 9. Let me check what the date is. Oh, tomorrow is Thursday. So tomorrow we are going to, I'll have to figure out which one, what we are going to which one we are going to use. But yeah, and then the 10th lecture is my who are the favorite artists that I admire. I'm going to discuss 3 artists on Friday. Then next Monday and Tuesday, after Tuesday, our classes are done. So Monday will be where I'm going to discuss with you what's going to have, what you can do to put your art out in front of people. So forth. So thank you for being with me.
Thank you, Hyacinth.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Hyacinth.
You're welcome. Let me see what happened here.
I couldn't do anything. I did little bit.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
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 So, Kusum ji, आप कर सकते हो ना? Like you will be able to do this, right?
I will try.
Yeah.
I didn't start.
So basically, you know what you should do is just take the palette knife and apply paint. First you apply this whole thing, then apply the background.
And
Only
color, watercolor,
No, no, no. Acrylic color, जो tube में आते हैं.
acrylic color. Okay.
Acrylic color, जो tube में आते हैं.
Okay.
Only leave this paint like the yellow जहाँ पे sunflower है. Don't put the background there. Remember, I left it white. And then put on like blobs of like little black paint or brown paint, and then put the yellows. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
I will try. I don't know. I will do it or not.